Hi friends, this is Professor Vinod D'Souza, Associate Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, AJ Institute of Engineering and Technology in Mangalore. So today we will discuss the topic called as chemical modification. In the previous classes, we have discussed mechanical stabilization and also we have discussed about the stabilization done by using cement. So today we'll start with chemical stabilization, and in that the first topic is called as bituminous stabilizations. Bituminous soil stabilizations is an effective method which being used widely. Bituminous materials available are bitumen, asphalt and tar. As we all know that bitumen are non-aqueous system of hydrocarbons which are completely soluble in carbon disulfide. Asphalts are materials in which the primary components are natural or refined petroleum bitumens or combination thereof. Tars are bitumens condensates produced by the destructive distillation of organic materials such as coal, oil, lignite, peat, and wood. Any organic soil which can be mixed with asphalt is suitable for bituminous stabilizations. When we talk about various types of soils, maybe fine grain, coarse grains, clay, gravel, sand, silts, etc., if the soil is able to mix with asphalt or is able to mix with the bitumen, then we can conduct the bituminous stabilizations. In cohesionless soils, asphalt binds with the soil particles together and serves as a binding agent. The purpose, what you've seen in case of cement stabilizations, same theory is applied here. The asphalt which is added to soil, it binds the particles together so that the cohesion of the soil particles will be increased, the voids will be reduced so that particles will not move away from each other. In case of cohesive soils, asphalt protects the soil by plugging its voids and waterproofing it. It helps to maintain low moisture content and to increase the bearing capacity of the soil. Normally, the problem of fine grained soil is it holds the water within its particles, and because of the less permeability, the water will not escape easily from the voids. And that's why the purpose of bituminous is to plugging its voids so that the water will not enter inside the soils, and that's how it makes the soil as waterproof. And when the water doesn't enter the soil will remain dry, and hence the bearing capacity will be increased. General theory says that amount of bitumen required, it will varies from 4 to 7% by its weight. Among the bituminous materials, most of bitumen civilization has been done by using asphalt. Therefore, soil stabilized by asphalt may be referred to as soil asphalt. Asphalts are produced by three processes. First one, vacuum distillation producing straight run asphalt. Second, high temperature pyrolysis of refinery heavies producing cracked asphalt. And third, high temperature air blowing straight run asphalt producing blown asphalt. As a straight run asphalt has low softening temperature and low melt viscosity, it is commonly used in soil stabilizations. Asphalt cannot be directly added to the soil because it's too viscous. That's why we have to increase its fluidity, and this will be done by either heating or by emulsifying in water or cut back with some solvents like gasoline or etc. Both emulsions and cutbacks are used in soil stabilizations. Although soil asphalt has varied applications, it is mostly used in bases for highway and airfield pavements. So, as per the knowledge, various types of vitamins are used. Let us see one by one. The first type of vitamin is called as soil vitamin. It is a waterproof material, cohesive soil system, used for cohesive soil system, and the best results are obtained if the soil is having the following criteria. First criteria is the soil particles passing through sieve number 4, that is 4.76 millimeter sieve, should be 50%. Passing through sieve number 40, that is 0.425 millimeter, should be between 35 to 100%. Passing to sieve number 200, that is 0.074 millimeter, the particles should be 10 to 50%. Plastic limit should be less than 18% and liquid limit should be less than 40%. The maximum size of the particles should not be greater than one third the compacted thickness of the soil bitumen. So we can take a layers of 15 centimeter each and we can compact it so that the particle size, maximum size of particles will not exceed one third the compacted thickness of the soil bitumen. The quantity of bitumen required varies from again 4 to 7% of dry weight of the soil. Certain granule soils may be stabilized by adding bitumens such as bitumen emulsion, cutback bitumen, asphalt bitumen. Main purpose of adding bitumen is it seals the pores and hence it reduces the permeability of the soil, and that's how it will increase the strength by providing the cohesion between the particles, which is very much important in case of cohesionless soils. When we bond or bind the particles together, the particles will not move away from each other, they will remain in its positions and the voids will be reduced, and that's how the strength of the soil will increase. The second topic is called as sand bitumen. Here, this is called as the bitumen stabilized cohesionless soil system. Since sand is used, it is called as sand bitumen. The sand which is used in the system should be of free from vegetable matter or clay lumps. It should not contain any organic matters and the clay content should be very less. The sand require filler for mechanical stability and this filler part is done by using bitumens. It should not contain more than 25% passing number 200 sieve material for dune sands and not more than 12% in case of other types of sand. Normally the amount of bitumen required here will vary from 4 to 10%. The construction procedure is as follows. While doing the construction, the following points should be noted. The optimum volatile content for compaction is greater than that for stability. The requirement for thorough mixing may be even greater, that is for clay soils. So it is necessary to aerate the mix between mixing and compaction and between compaction and applications. So we have to leave some time so that proper aeration will be taken place, that is between mixing and compaction. Once the layer is mixed, then we have to allow little time and then after we have to start the compaction. And similarly, once the material is applied on the road surface, again you have to leave it for some time so that aeration occurs and then you have to start the compaction. For high stability, the layer method of construction is preferred because if the layer thickness is large, the bottom layer of the soil will not be compacted properly. Hence, each layer should have only 5 centimeters of thickness. Then only we can achieve the greater results. When lower layer is dried, then subsequent layer should be laid. Sufficient time should be allowed to dry the each layer. The total thickness for base course is between 10 to 20 centimeters so that we can conduct this procedure for 2, 3 or 4 layers. In mix in place method, the bitumen is sprayed in several passes. Mixing method means the mixing will be done in the site itself where soil will be pulverized and above the soil the bitumen is laid and then it is mixed. So in that case, bitumen is sprayed in several passes. We can't mix this bitumen in only a single pass so that it will not be mixed properly. Each layer is partially mixed before the next pass. This method prevents the saturation of the surface of the subgrade. Climatic condition influences the amount of bitumen applied. Chances that in case of hot conditions we may require slightly more bitumen than the colder regions. The factors affecting the bitumen stabilizations, they are classified as type of soil, amount of asphalt, mixing and compaction. Type of soil. All inorganic soils with which asphalt can be mixed can be stabilized. The soil which satisfies the following requirements yields the best results. It is effective in stabilizing sandy soils having little or no fines. If fines are there in sandy soils, then it will be difficult to mix the asphalt. For cohesive soils, the plastic limit should be less than 20% and liquid limit should be less than 40% for a good results. Plastic clays cannot be properly treated because of mixing problems, and in this case we require large amount of asphalt to stabilize this type of soils. Fine grained soils having high pH value and dissolved salts do not respond well in these systems. When we have some organic matters in the soil which will be of acid origin is detrimental to the soil asphalt. Asphalt stabilization cannot be effective in fine grained soils with high pH and dissolved salts, as we have discussed. The second topic factor is called as amount of asphalt. An increase in asphalt content gives better results. In fine grained soils, addition of asphalt does not increase the strength but tremendously improve the waterproofing property, and thereby it will yield a better stabilized soil. Asphalts also should be added optimally, otherwise results in a bad mixture which cannot be properly compacted. Regarding the mixing, a thorough incorporate of the additive with the soil yields a better stabilized soil, and the mixing should be done properly in layers of 5 centimeter thick. As the mixing is done for first layer, immediately it has to be compacted, then the second layer of mixture should be done. You should not have a mixture of more than 5 centimeter layer, otherwise mixing will not be proper. The last factor is compaction. The density of a mixture of soil and asphalt is governed by the volatile contents and amount and type of compaction. Lower the volatile contents, the higher will be the strength. Further, samples which were cured and then immersed in water showed a maximum strength at the molding volatiles near or slightly above that for a maximum compacted density, and the water pickup and the strength loss is least at the molding volatiles. You can see the different pictures taken during the construction process. The first process say is mixed with the bitumen. Second shows spreading and mixing of bitumen with the soil. Third layer is applying the bitumen, and fourth layer final surface it shows. Next is we are using various chemicals for the stabilization of soil. The chemical stabilization consists of bonding the soil particles with a cementing agent that is produced by a chemical reaction within the soil. Some type of chemical reaction going to take place between the soil and the chemicals, and based on which the particles will be bonded together. This reaction does not necessarily include the soil particles, although the bonding does involve intermolecular forces of the soil. The primary used chemicals are lime, salt, lignin, polymers, aggregates, and dispersants. First thing is lime stabilization. Lime has been used as soil stabilizer for roads from olden days. Lime is produced from limestone. The type of lime formed is based upon the parent material and the production process. There are 5 basic types of limes available in the market, and they are high calcium quicklime, hydrated high calcium lime, dolomite lime, normal hydrated dolomite lime, and pressure hydrated dolomite lime. So in this hydrated lime, we are also calling this as a name with slaked lime, is the most commonly used lime for soil stabilizations. Lime is also used in combination with other admixtures like fly ash, cement, bitumen, or any other chemicals so that we can improve the properties of the soil. When we add lime with the soil, the chemical reaction is going to take place, and here 2 types of chemical reactions are going to take place when we add lime to the soil. The first one, which will occur immediately, is a colloidal type of reaction involving ion exchange of calcium for the ions naturally carried by the soil. So in this process, the exchange of calciums from the lime and the soil is going to take place. Then a depression of the double layer of the soil colloids because of increase in cation concentration in the pore water. As the cation concentration of the pore water increases, the diffuse double layer of the clay is going to break, and then an expansion of the double layer of the soil is going to take place. As this occurs, the clay will be completely dry and it starts bonding with other particles. The second reaction takes considerable time in a cementing action. The cementing action, also called as pozzolanic action, is not completely understood, but is thought to be a reaction between the calcium from the lime with the available reactive alumina or silica from the soil. The soil contains silica and alumina which will react with the calcium of the lime, and that's how the pozzolanic action is going to take place, and that's how it will bond the particles together. During the construction process, we have to take certain precautions. They are: the reaction in the case of lime is slow. There is no maximum time limit between the addition of lime to the soil and the completion of compaction, lime may be added in the form of slurry instead of dry powder. If you add dry powder, then there are chances that the powder may fry along with the air, or it will not be able to mix with the soil. So instead of that, if we mix the powder with the water and make a slurry, then it will be easy to mix with the soil. A rest period or curing period of 1 to 4 days is generally required after the spreading time over a heavy clay before final mixing will be done. The soil lime is compacted to the required maximum dry density, which we need to find out before the application of the lime. After compaction, the surface is kept moist for 7 days and then it is covered with a suitable wearing coat. The construction procedure will be as below. First procedure is clarify the base. Base, normally the soil will be hard at the top level, which has to be scraped, and you have to loosen the soil, and then we have to pulverize the soil. We have to mix the soil. We have to make the lumps convert into powder form. Once it is pulverized, then spread the lime evenly on the surface. You see that the lime is spread evenly and it covers the entire area of stabilization. Then mix the lime and soil. By using some machineries, it is required to mix the lime and soil thoroughly and then add the water to bring the water level to the optimum moisture contents. Once it is mixed with water, have to allow it for drying for some period, and then we have to compact the mixture to its optimum density. Then shape the stabilized base. Shape it or cut the sides for the required width, and then cure. Keep it moist and traffic free for at least 5 to 7 days so that it acquires the required strength. Once it acquires the required strength, then I can add the wearing course and then it can be opened for the traffic. The figure shows the construction procedures, how the lime is mixed with the soil, what is the nature of soil stabilized before adding and after adding the lime course. The uses of lime stabilizations are: soil plasticity, density and strength are changed by the addition of lime to the soil. Its plasticity property will improve, its density will be increased, and hence the strength of the soil will be increased. Lime generally increases the plasticity index of low plastic soils and decreases the plasticity index of highly plastic soils. Because of reduction in the plasticity of plastic soils, the soil becomes more friable and easy for handling in the field. Addition of lime causes a reduction in the maximum compacted density and an increase in the optimum molding water content. So in general, lime increases the strength of almost all types of soil. Next chemical we are going to discuss is called as calcium and sodium chlorides. Both these chlorides as a soil stabilizer react in somewhat same manner. This salt has been used in recent years as additives in the construction of granular stabilized road bearings and base courses. The effect of salt on soil is from first one is causing colloidal reaction and second altering the characteristics of the soil water. Although calcium and sodium chlorides act as soil flocculants, they are not as effective as other chemicals such as ferric chloride. Chemical reaction here which takes place is most of the beneficial action of salt in soil are mainly due to the changes salts makes in the characteristics of the water in the soil pores. These changes reduce the loss of moisture from the soil and are explained by the fact that the salts are deliquescent and hygroscopic and lower the vapor pressure of water. Frost heave in soil is reduced due to addition of salt by lowering the freezing point of water. Thus, the performance of soil stabilized soil depend on the amount of groundwater movement. If there is more groundwater movement, it will be difficult that these salts will react with the soil. Salt addition shows a slightly increase of maximum compacted density and a slight reduction in the optimum molding water contents. Lignin. This chemical is available in both the forms, either powder or liquid form. Lignin in both the forms has been used as an additive to the soil from many years. It is a water soluble content, hence its stabilizing effects are not permanent. As the water content or groundwater movement is increased, it will dissolve in water and hence it will lose its properties. So the stabilizing will not be a durable one or a permanent one. The chemical reaction is insoluble gel is formed when sodium bicarbonate or potassium bicarbonate is added to the sulfate waste. It acts as an acid if it is not neutralized. It is also reported that lignin also reduces from He reactions. These chemicals, either cement, bitumen, lime, or other chemicals, should be mixed thoroughly in the field. And for this, various construction methods are available. They are, first one is called as mix in place method, second one is traveling plant method, and third it is called as stationary plant method. First method, which is called as mix in place method. So here everything is mixed at the site itself. In this method of construction, a train of machines is run over the soil to be processed. Hence, because various processes are required in the case of construction, that is, we have to pulverize the soil, we have to mix the soil, we have to spread the chemicals, then we have to add the water, compaction, and for all this process we require different machines, and these machines will be run like a train, one behind the other. So in order to break up the soil, we require rippers, cultivators or rotary drillers, and to loose plows or scarifiers are used. This will be the first process in the construction. Then water is added to loose the soil from the sprayer. The necessary stabilizer is added either by spray wagon in the case of fluid stabilizer, or by hand in the case of stabilizer, which is in the form of a powder. The mixing of stabilizer into the soil is done by further passes of the rotary driller or by special soil mixers. So once it is done, shaping of the loose mixed material will be done, and then the compaction will be followed. No formworks are used to define the edge of the road construction. It is more economical to construct the stabilized road slightly wider than the planned width, so that the extra width can be used at the footpath or road margins. Later, the excess stabilized width can be used for the curves and other process. Many stabilizing agents require a period of curing after mixing before they become fully effective. For necessary curing to attain the surface is covered with a layer of moist soil or straw, or alternatively the surface may be kept damp by frequent application of light spray of water. Sometimes a bituminous priming coat may be used as a curing agent by applying it soon after the compaction, so that there won't be any lose of loss of heat from the soil. Before the application of the surfacing coat, the stabilized soil should be sprayed with a priming coat. This method is effectively used depending on the type of plant used in this mixing process. The various advantages of this method are: the plant is simple, cheap, and easily transported. The number of machines required can be adjusted to the size of the job. The whole process section is ready for compaction at the same time. A large average output may be maintained, and in the wet climate, the loss of water by evaporation may be advantageous. It's the only way of getting rid of excess moisture. The disadvantages of this process is: it's not easy to obtain a uniform thickness of treatment because the difficulty of setting the machines to to a given depth. As the machines run one behind the other, it is not possible to fix a common layer. The mixing will not be uniform as with traveling or stationary mixers. Heavy rain is liable to spoil the whole sections. If the rainfall is heavy, then it is not possible to run the machines, then the entire work will be spoiled. In dry climate, the water lost by evaporation is difficult to replace, because once the machines which carries the water passes, then it is not possible to send it back because other vehicles will be followed. The second method of construction is called as traveling plant method. Here, the procedure for application of stabilizer will be same as that of mix in place method. In case of cement, the pulverized soil is heaped into a windrow by a specially converted motor grader or a sizer, and the cement is spread on the top. Other procedure will remain same as that case of mix in place method. The advantage of this method are accurate proportioning of added water, as the plant will be traveled along with the place. We can add the required amount of water properly. There will be uniform mixing, because once the mixing is done, then only the mixture is placed at the site. Mixing, adding chemicals, adding water, everything will be done in the plant itself. Hence, we can control the mixing, and since it will be a mechanical handled machines, the short mixing time will be less. A uniform subgrade surface can be obtained, and the depth of treatment can be controlled. We can test each and every layers once it is applied on the soil. It has the highest output for a given expenditure of plant and labor. But the disadvantages are: it requires high initial cost of the plant, since the plant has to contain all the necessary parts. The cost of the plant will be high, and they have to bear that cost. The consequent need for the plant to work continuously at full capacity. If the work is not there, then the hidden costs will be increased. Work may be stopped for a minor breakdown on one piece of the plant. In the case of stationary plant method, the mixing plant will be situated at one place, and the materials will be carried to the site by using the trucks. All mixing all mixing of water, stabilizing soil, everything will be done at the plant itself. Hence, we required number of trucks to carry the mixed material to the site. In this, the elevated loader supplies supplies material to the hopper with a measuring gate. Hence, a belt conveyor discharges into a pug mill where water or fluid stabilizer may be added through spray nozzles and mixed into the soil. The mixed material is then discharged into lorries. It works as a ready mix plant. The advantages of this method is accurate proportioning of the mixture. All the stabilizers, water are measured and then they are mixed to the soil. Hence, we have a control over the proportioning. Easy control of depth of treatment. We can keep the formula and we can control the depth so that we will get the proper depth for the treatment. Concrete mixers can be used. No addition of haulage, no additional haulage if the soil has to be taken from a borrow pit. Sometimes what happens is we need to replace the soil which from a borrow pit. That time we can bring directly the soil to the plant and then it will be taken to the required site. Small losses of moisture during mixture and transport of materials will be there. This method is suitable for use with the formwork. Whereas the disadvantage is when it will be expensive if soil in the site is processed. So here it will be a double work. We have to bring the soil from the site to the plant and then again it has to be brought back to the site. So it will increase the cost. Material must be compacted as delivered and not as a complete section. So this is one more disadvantages where material must be compacted as delivered. Once the construction is done, we have to control the quality and which is called as field control. And in this field control, we have to concentrate on the following aspects. They are called as degree of pulverizations, moisture content, dry density and moisture content relationships, cross-sectional area of the windrow, depth of treatment, quality of mixed materials, density of the compacted layer, and stabilizer contents. Degree of pulverizations means the soil which is used for the stabilization should be pulverized. The lumps should be broken so that 80% of the pulverized material should pass through 4.5 millimeter sieves. Okay. For coarse aggregates, this is not required, whereas the fine aggregates, the pulverization will be an important step. And this can be checked by taking the materials and by using the sieve analysis. You can check whether the material will pass through 4.5 millimeter sieve or not. Moisture content. The water which is added to the soil should be under control. You have to see that this water will not exceed the optimum moisture content of the water. Hence, once the water is added to the soil is taken to the laboratory and we have to check for the water content. If it is less, we can add the excess amount of water, and if the water added is more, then we have to wait so that the water dries up and it will get the required water. Dry density moisture content relationships. As we know that the density or maximum density depends on the optimum moisture content of the soil. As the compaction process is going on, we have to take the samples from places and we have to test for the maximum density as well as water content. And at all the stages, we have to plot the curve and we have to see whether we can able to achieve the required maximum density or not. Cross-sectional area of windrow. For the traveling plant working on a windrow, it is essential to measure the cross-sectional area of the windrow to ensure the proportioning of stabilizer is correct and that the correct thickness will be laid. Depth of treatment of spreading. Each and every sections we have to see whether the stabilizer has spread to the required depth or not, and this has to be controlled. The quality of mixed material. Again, after mixing, we have to take out the samples and we have to check whether all the particles are covered with the required amount of stabilizers or not. If not, then again the mixing has to be done so that uniform mixture is available. Density of the compacted layer has to been tested by using various methods, either taking core cutter or field methods, and we have to check the density at each and every places. The amount of stabilizer used is also been checked by taking the sample to the laboratory. Thank you guys.